Okay, live video is starting, and there's a little bit of delay on these things, so folks might be hearing and seeing me before I know it. So here we are, we're live. Welcome everybody to this live with me, Matt Vosberg, and Jim Small and Bozy Evtimov. We're from some different places, if you will. We're all working together in a variety of ways, but we're here to support you and to engage with you and connect with you here in this commercial real estate investing Facebook group. So thank you for joining us. Please say hi in the comments. We want to hear how it's going. Well, actually, want to hear where you're from. We've got people from all over the world in this group, and so go ahead and post in the comments. Say hi. Say where you're from. Anything else you want to post in there? We're going to be live here. I'm going to be watching the comments, and so we are streaming this from Zoom, as you can see on the screen. But I'm watching the comments and going to be answering questions live. So I'll be bringing those to Jim as we go through this. But Jim's going to be talking about AI, commercial real estate investing, some powerful, powerful stuff today. So be sure you stick around for the whole thing. We are recording this, and we've got a great gift for you at the end. We're going to get you all hooked up really nice. So be sure you stay with us, and if you have to drop, jump back in here on the recording and get all the good stuff. But with no further ado, let me just go ahead and introduce myself before we get into the fun stuff. I'm Matt Vosberg. I'm the admin of the Commercial Real Estate Investing Facebook group here and owner of MVP Creative Solutions. We work with small businesses to optimize their systems and their strategy and to help them save time and grow sales. So anyway, that's what I do here, and I'm here partnered up with Jim and Bozy and all this cool stuff that we're doing here for you folks. So um, Jim, we I'm going to let you introduce yourself here, but when we first talked about doing this, we had a different plan. We kind of scrapped that plan for what we're doing today because you said something to me, and you said this in your webinar recently. The industry is splitting in two right now, and we need to warn people. That of course, my ears perked up when I heard that. But Jim, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the folks what you do at Sante, and tell us about this split that you're seeing, and kick us off into this fun stuff here.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And thank you for setting up the group. I know it's been years, but the fact that you've grown this to over 52,000 people worldwide, all interested in commercial real estate investing is very cool. Um, Happy to share why I think the industry is bifurcating right now in commercial real estate investing. And we'll kind of double click on that, if you will. And I'm going to also walk through some really useful tools that we're seeing usable today, AI tools in particular, whether you're a broker like me, or you're an investor, or you're a service provider to the industry, there's just some really um, clear and present opportunities that really should be being utilized. And so my background, after business school, I had founded a property management company. We had ended up managing about 2.5 billion of other people's assets, so referred to as third-party management, primarily in the residential sector. We did that both in the U.S. and the Middle East, and then sold that company and was able to start being an investor myself. And so we formed a company called Sante Realty Investments, as you mentioned. That's where we first got to know each other years ago. And we grew that with investors, high net worth investors, some family offices, et cetera. And we grew that to be a pretty sizable founder led organization, having probably, I don't know, 150 million of multifamily properties, probably 80 million of office and commercial properties. And then we exited all of those in 2021 and 2022. And since then, we've been doing some more fund work and some advisory work and helping people in the commercial real estate industry really optimize their organizations for success, whether that means using automations, whether that means using AI, whether that means creating a fund instead of being a syndicator, wherever that is. We basically hung out a shingle called $1 billion.coach, and that's where we help people through advisory work. So with that, we got really specialized in AI because it's been, not only headlines, but we fortunately have been involved in this for many years. We were trying to create mathematical algorithms back in 2018, 19, before anyone had ever heard of ChatGPT. And of course, when ChatGPT came out at the end of 22 and really started to take a hold of mindshare in 2023 and on, our much smaller team, because we sold the apartment and the apartment portfolio and the office and retail portfolios, we started to lean in on this. And so I was going to walk through a few examples today and show why some of the industry still is very human centric, information being withheld from one party to another. And that's how people have been making money in real estate for, I don't know if it's centuries, but it's certainly decades. And how we're seeing that as kind of the now outdated construct and a real bifurcation into the machine centric with human approvals. And whether, again, you're a listing broker or you're an investor or you're a service provider to commercial real estate, we really see there's two sides. And really, for those that don't make the shift from human centric to machine centric, we really think they're going to be very, very depressed in the next 18 to 24 months because they're just not going to have enough business with enough margin to exist. And so we're trying to help as many people as we can, whether that's through webinars or direct one-on-one coaching. We really want to be like you, Matt, help people be successful in their own businesses.
I love that. Wow. That's yeah, I think, people are definitely excited about, where AI is and where it's going. And, I don't think anyone is unaware of the power that lies in these tools. But there's a lot out there, and there's a million ways to use these tools. We got to be efficient. We've got to be profitable. And so, it can be tough for folks, I think, in a lot of cases to figure out, what's the best way to go about these things? What are the best tools? And of course, that's evolving and changing by the second. But you've got a really solid system for this. We were talking about a bionic workflow with AI. So, you did a workshop recently, and folks, we're going to be in a couple weeks on the 21st. Just going to go ahead and kind of pepper this in here now. We're going to be bringing a really in-depth workshop where you're going to walk through basically putting your own system together, right, with Jim and us here. So, yeah, Jim, tell us a little more. We're going to dig in now about,
Yeah.
at a high level at least, this bionic workflow. Yeah, what's that look like? I mean, when most people here go to look for deals, they're going to Crexy, LoopNet, maybe scrolling through, this group, starting there. Yeah, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, let me go ahead and do a screen share. And sorry for any of you listening to the audio, won't see some of these, but I'll try to describe it pretty well. And so why don't I share? You can make sure, Matt, the right thing's showing up. I'll give you the context of where we're seeing different participants in commercial real estate benefiting from these tools and really how you can use them, whether you're an investor and a syndicator or you're a listing broker and an agent. And so the three kind of use cases or scenarios I thought I'd just showcase today are deal sourcing, as you just kind of mentioned, Matt, and then also due diligence. Like, how can we do faster and as good or better quality due diligence on investments? And then once we think there's a great investment, how do we share that with investors? If we're not just solely funding an investment ourselves, how do we raise that equity? We could also use some of the same tools for getting a better mortgage or financing as well. So I think if you're up for it, Matt, I can just walk this through and give it a go.
It's
All
awesome.
right,
Perfect.
let's do it. So in this talk, what I did is I color coded a few things just to kind of help. Some of the prompts I'll share because we're going to use Gemini 3 as we record this in January 2026. It's one of the best frontier models for LLMs today. So I'll show the prompts we're using there. Some of the inputs that we upload, like we might upload an OM or we might upload a T12 or a rent roll, we'll put that in black. And then the outputs that some of the tools give us, I'm going to show that in orange. So orange for output. And then one of the things I get asked a lot is like, okay, this looks cool, but how long does this take? And so we put these little stopwatches on some of the slides to say this thing takes, 10 seconds. This thing takes 5 minutes. So we'll do that. So that's kind of the legend for the talk. And what I thought I'd start with is the deal sourcing. So, in our past at Sante Realty Investments, when we bought different asset types and needed to source those deals, certainly, we wanted off-market deals. And so we would use things like CoStar for those. We'd certainly subscribe to lots of brokerages, databases, and distribution lists. But now what we found is we can actually get AI agents to do this offline, kind of behind the scenes. So the way that this works, and these graphics were created by Notebook LM. So if you haven't used Notebook LM, it's a great tool to create pitch decks, to create webinars, to create infographics. I think we might pay $20 a month, but you can get some of the use for free at notebooklm.google.com. And so what we're going to do here, as you see in the infographics, we're going to scrape some listings. We're going to then define our own search criteria, because you might be looking for unique single family homes in one market, or you might be looking for land in a certain state, or you might be looking for a hotel nationwide. And so we're going to create some of our own investment criteria. Then we're going to show you how we can use AI tools to evaluate and rank those searches to really streamline our time. So instead of taking 2 to 4 hours to look at a deal, when we had analysts on our team and we had a whole team of them, that's about how long it took us to look through a deal and be comfortable to move it forward. We can now do it in literally seconds, and sometimes while we're sleeping. So I'm going to walk through that and show you how that's ranked. So if we were to start with CRE, I mentioned we did CoStar. There's a really great platform called REHQ.com. There's certainly other and other things depending on what you're looking for. But I just want to use one example because, quite frankly, it works for with most of them. Now, CoStar being a little more protective than others for integrations probably is the hardest to use, but I'll use CRE because they're relatively easy. But REHQ.com is also a really great platform. And so if we're on that platform and say I was just searching for multifamily in Arizona, I'd run a search. I could pick a few criteria in there, as you would see or use. And this is even the free version, by the way. And I came back with 232 results when I was setting up this deck to walk you through. And that's instantaneous, right? It takes just seconds to get that. But now it's going to take our analysts a long time. It could take 30, 40, 50 minutes. It could take hours to go through those. Sometimes we'll sort by price. We can sort by location. But really to dig in and see if there's an opportunity there, it takes a while. And so we really were looking for a way to streamline that. And what we thought is, well, what if we had a technology that could go through all 232 results and help us analyze it really before our analyst even comes into the office? And so what we did is we partnered with a tool called Appify. So it's just appify.com. I think we pay $25 a month for it. There's some like metering if you're using some of their tools, which they call actors. If you're using them a lot, then you might pay a certain amount of cents, like 17 cents, 22 cents, whatever, for a full search, but incredibly economical. We have found that using the tools that we'll demonstrate, there's at least a 10-fold return or a 10x return on using these tools, oftentimes a 100x return on whatever they cost, versus doing it the human-centric way that we've been used to using in the industry for decades. So if I just search in Appify for CRE and find out how many actors or pre-existing tools that can scrape my results, there's 1,409 actors you see on the right. Now, some of these they don't work great. They're not very robust. Someone just put them out there and they were playing with it. So what I try to do is I try to look at what's got the most use. So I see this one on the top left, this little tile has 296 people using it with a 5-star rating, even though there's only 3 people that rated it. I'm going to take something that's got 296 users using it versus the one beneath it that has 2, just because I've got the benefit of the crowd. And so if I use this Appify actor to scrape CRE, I'll literally put in that search where I came back with 232 results for multifamily in Arizona. And I'm going to use this actor and it's going to ask me for a few things. So I get to pick different solutions. do I want the broker contact information? Do I want the listing information? Do I want the property record? The more you select, the longer the actor takes to get you results. And so if you're just doing a quick cursory, I'd probably turn those configurations off. But then it can do all kinds of things for you. And the more features you select, A, the longer it takes, and B, the more you pay. So it might be instead of 17 cents, it'll be 58 cents. If I run a really robust search, I might pay $3, but it's incredibly economical. And so when I use this scraping tool, all I give it is the domain. You can actually see the starter URL. I just copy and paste the CRE search that came back with 232 units or listings, excuse me. I put that in here, and now this CRE scraping actor in Appify is going to go through that and rank them for me. And so it takes that output and now it puts it into kind of a table format in Appify. So I'm in Appify now. I get the results, and now I can do some pretty cool stuff with it. I can literally export it just to a CSV file, like an Excel file, where now I can apply that logic I shared earlier. We're going to apply logic that says, I maybe want the largest number of units, or I want the longest days on market, or I want the highest NOI. And so I can apply that. Now you see the stopwatch in the top right. It took about 5 minutes for that actor in Appify to output this robust list. And you actually see on the bottom, you can scroll to the right, and there's all these other columns of data we can use to then kind of find a property to buy. And so I'm taking this example as if you're an investor, not a listing broker, but the same technologies apply. And now I'm going to go over and I'm going to upload this into Gemini. Again, I'm using Gemini 3 in this example, and I'm going to give it a really basic prompt. I'm just going to say, hey, Gemini, filter the property listings in the attached file, that's that CSV I just showed you, and rank them in a table format output using these criteria: lowest price per square foot, highest cap rate, largest number of units, that's my most important criteria, and then most recently built. And just by using that criteria, Gemini is going to go through that, and it's going to come back with output that my analyst would have spent maybe a few hours on. It's going to come back and tell me, hey, based on what you want, here's the top rated listings. And I'm just going to say, for this example, I really like this third listing, La Brisa Apartments, because it's sizable with 132 units. It's got a good price per square foot. I'm gonna dig into that. And so what I do is now I say, okay, Gemini, I'm just gonna click a button, because Gemini gives you this option, just like other Claude or ChatGPT or Grok gives you an option just to export. We're just gonna go ahead and click on export and send it over to Google Sheets. So when it does that, now I've got this in a CSV file, but it's already ranked and it's got the data that I want, like the price per square foot, cap rate. It's not just a data dump that would have come out of CRE or Appify. I've had Gemini really put logic to it. And so what you'll see is that 232 or 225, whatever the number was, number of apartments, based on my criteria, it came back and gave me 16 to look at. And some of these are too small for, in our case, for our company to buy. So we're really looking at the top ones. And this is where you want to have a human in the loop, an analyst or a chief investment officer, or you as the investor. And you want to say, this one in Tempe, Arizona, I don't want that. It's too expensive, or it's not a good area or whatever. I'm going to try this, look deep into this one that's in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Now, in my case, I grew up around there. I know that there's a military base there that can provide constant stream of tenants. And so I want to dig into that. And so I'm going to take that, and I'll pause, Matt, for you to ask clarifying questions or anything else, but I'm going to take that and show you how we would do due diligence with a machine first approach instead of a human first approach. But let me pause and see if you have anything to add or clarify first.
Yeah, nothing to clarify right now, but I do want to pause and just, if you can go back to, you don't have to go back, but that spreadsheet, that initial spreadsheet you had that had the full, all the data from Crexi.
Yeah.
Folks, let's all just take a moment and just just recognize we've all built those spreadsheets. We've all spent the hours and hours and hours copying and pasting data out of different websites. But what we just saw there is bringing that data in. And honestly, it probably pulled more data in than a human would have copying and pasting anyway. And so yeah, this is an incredible, just wanted to call that out, folks. Historic, I would call it maybe.
It's certainly a ability to buy time, and time being the most rare commodity out there. Um, Pretty cool because we would just spend so much time with so many people looking through things. I mean, literally, historically, we looked at 100 properties to get one that we would try to buy. I've heard from some of the folks we coach again through billiondollar.coach that they're looking at 300 properties for every one that they're even putting an offer in on in the last couple of years. That can be because of cap rates, interest rates, bad data, all kinds of things. But if you think of that crazy amount of effort, both in elapsed time and human cost of salaries, payroll, overhead, 1 out of 100 is now 1 out of 300. That's just a huge waste because we can now do it in at least minutes, if not seconds. So
Yeah, and that brings us to the next piece that you're going to get into here, which is offering memorandum, the rent roll, the T12, all the parts, the really hard stuff that it takes days, and often deals can die at this stage.
for sure. Yeah, let's dig in there. So we at one point were able to codify, put a code to every single due diligence task our real estate investment company was doing. And we did that because we were going to a process to offshore labor from expensive domestic labor to offshore less expensive labor, very talented offshore labor, but less expensive. And so we knew this particular thing to look up property taxes took 7 minutes. This thing to verify how many utility meters were on the property took 3 hours. And we literally did all of that. And so we know what it normally takes to do due diligence in the human centric yesteryear versus today, AI first enablement. And so that's what I'll show you. So in getting the inputs on the left of this, again, notebook LM graphic, we'd certainly have everything. And depending on the asset type, we'd have different things, right? You're going to have a lease abstract if it's commercial or retail or industrial. You're going to have all of the tenant leases if it's multifamily. You're certainly going to have vendor contracts. You're going to have rent rolls, T12s, all those kind of things to put them in there. And what that looks like now is we use various tools, put that in and run through it to have it analyzed by automated functions. And then that'll generate a result that then we have humans review. And so all of the time that we had researched and verified it takes to do due diligence was about 6 labor hours. Now that happens over many weeks, unfortunately, because you're waiting for a document, you're waiting for something else, or there's someone's working on a different project. So 6 hours of actual labor time over weeks ended up being under 10 minutes automated using this solution. And so again, you're just buying time. So I'm going to take that example, La Brisa Apartments. The OM was just listed on CRE, so we can download it. Sometimes I know there's an extra step. You may have to sign an NDA or confidentiality agreement. In this particular case, we didn't. So we grabbed the OM, but if we had that extra step, it would only take seconds of machine time to do that. Maybe it takes a little bit of elapsed time to get the NDA back, but we would automate it nonetheless. So this offering memorandum that we got from CRE as an input. So we just simply are going to upload that into Gemini, and in the listing, and sometimes in the OM, there was a T12 trailing 12-month financial. You see the different months here and what the different categories of expenses were. And there was also a rent roll, in this case, for all the units. Remember, there was a 100 or 200 units almost in this case. And so we would upload that, and it would have, current rent, lease date, start, end, occupied status. Maybe it's got RUBS, it's got security deposit, it's got other things, pet rent, whatever, but you can upload that and Gemini will then go through and analyze it for you given the right prompt. And so, what does it take to get the prompt? Well, here's a really great insight we learned. There was about a 6 month period, maybe 12 months, where there was a lot of talk about, hey, you've got to get good at doing prompting. You've got to be a prompt engineer. You've got to learn how to tell the computer what to do. Well, that was true for a very short period of time. That's now gone as a concept because now what we're doing is we're telling the LLMs, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, whatever, hey, you give me the prompt. I just want to tell you what I'm trying to achieve. And so this is an example where we're saying, hey, Gemini, you're my brainstorming partner. I'm going to give you an offering memorandum. I'm going to give you some other stuff. And I need a certain internal rate of return from my investors or a certain multiple on invested capital for our investors. And so ask me clarifying questions one at a time so I can give you the responses. And then I want you as an output Gemini to give me a prompt for Gemini to go do the actual research. So it's kind of this small Jedi mind trick where you're not having to be a prompt engineer. You're just simply guiding what you're trying to achieve and letting the LLM do the work. And so when it comes back, what the prompt is that Gemini created is very robust. It's literally this page, which has the context, the hold period, the constraints, the target IRR, the waterfall structure we're going to do in our particular fund or our syndication, what type of research we want. In this case, we also want to have a certain renovation budget. So we're going to tell it like, hey, go out and search online. What are people paying for renovations per units, but keep it pretty tight. And then this is the cool thing because we answered a question on the screen I didn't share, but between me telling Gemini, ask me questions, and this output, we said to Gemini, part of what I want you to do is get me a 14% IRR for our investors. And so what it's going to do is it's actually going to recommend what's the price we can pay given this renovation budget, given these rent rolls, given these T12s, what we can pay for this apartment. And so now I'm going to use this output as a prompt to have it do the research. Matt, did you want
That
to jump in?
that's incredible. I mean, Gemini just told you the strike price.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love this. I just wanted to say that.
No, it's great. And it's funny. I was on a call and we were coaching a CEO of a small to medium sized investment firm, and they said, we need off market deals because all the on market deals are priced wrong. And I said, hold on, time out. Why don't you go figure out what the price should be, whether it's a cap rate or an IRR or a multiple, and you go to the seller or broker that's listing it and say, we can't pay 10.7, but we'll pay 9.5. Oftentimes, what we're finding is it's surprising how often, particularly for properties that have been on the market a long time, now mortgages are coming due. Investors in the old selling entity are getting anxious or in some cases irritated. And someone says, you know what, I can't take 9.5, I'll take 9.6. And you're getting a deal that was listed for 10.7, for $1.1 million less. But doing your own analysis and quite frankly, sometimes even telling that to the listing broker or the seller, like, look, based on renovation costs, based on the market rents, based on all this, that's the most I can pay. And you've had it on the market for a year or two. I don't think you're going to get someone to pay the price you want. I respect that you want it, but based on data, and I can show you the data, it's not going to happen. And oftentimes that's compelling enough for a investor to get a really good deal.
Yeah, and the chance that a seller is doing this kind of in-depth analysis that you're able to do with Gemini and these tools is not typically going to be likely. And so, yeah, you're able to come in not as just a buyer or as a broker. You're able to come in as truly a thought partner, a business partner on this investment, right? So that's awesome. Now, it even we were talking about this before. It even flags things for you,
Yeah.
like something weird, weird management fee in the T12, or it's like having a
Sure.
senior analyst sitting next to you, right? So you get this super, insight. But I know there are folks watching this going, all right, yeah, that's great, but AI hallucinates, it gets things wrong. I need a real Excel model. Uh, people a lot of times don't trust the chatbots, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think you still need the human in the loop. January 2026, I wouldn't suggest you fully automate and fully trust any AI tool. You do want to have that business logic, that common sense, verifying things. So you're buying time to accelerate with AI tools, but you're not giving up the business acumen or experience to check things. And I think that we've seen data and benchmarking where if you're using the latest model as of this recording, depending if you're a Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, it's a different number. But if you're using the latest model, your hallucination rates, where it's just kind of giving you wrong information, is less than 1%. And I will tell you, in my experience, having hundreds and hundreds of employees, if I ever could get an employee to only have 1% mistakes in their time working for me, I would make them an A player on an ABC scale. So I think you've got to realize that whether you've got a human or you've got an AI tool, nothing's perfect. And you should always be double checking it. You should always have error handling and internal controls and all of that. But when you're down to 1% mistakes, um, that's pretty good. So that's kind of the grain of salt I would advocate. Um, so here's the output. To your point, like it's going to call out things. So I'm going to pick this apart. This is using that prompt with the OM. This is a real Gemini output. I didn't give it any other details other than the OM and the prompt. And so what it said is, you know what, you can only pay 9.25 million for this property, even though that it's listed for 10.75, because the renovation budget in the market in Sierra Vista, Arizona today is 12.5 thousand per unit. And here's what we found as the financing we can get based on going out online and looking at like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, real-time rates, how long it'd be fixed for, what's the interest rate. It went out and did all of that for me. I didn't have to subscribe to list. I didn't have to go check with a broker, a debt broker. I didn't have to have my analyst call people. I've got a really good starting point here. Now, am I going to try to negotiate the debt better? Yes. Am I going to try to quote the renovation budgets from a contractor get better? Yes. All those things will happen, but I've got something here I can start with immediately instead of waiting 6 hours over, days to get this. The other thing is it says like, hey, here's the current rent roll showing what the 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms people are paying. But by the way, zero point 0.3 miles away, 1.5 miles away, and 0.5 miles away, they're getting much higher rents. And so this is a great value add opportunity for someone to buy there using real market, real time data without me phone calling and pretending to be a renter and doing this mystery shopping. I can just grab the data. And there's no proprietary data feeds going into this. This is literally one shot from Gemini. And again, we pay 20 bucks a month for it. Over here, there's more data, renovations, interiors, what it recommends we do, what type of finishes, what type of price point, and all that gets to what we told it as an input is, hey, in a investor scenario for our syndication, we've got to pay our investors 14% net return of our fees, and we'd like to sell it as quickly as we could get the NOI where we want it to be. And it's suggesting 3 years based on when leases turn over, how long renovation takes, etc. And then it goes on and says, hey, I used Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac's interest rates online, comes to do a fourth page and says what the stabilized rent would be and how much we could exit for when we execute this value add plan. I hope someone buys this property and does this and tells me in 3 years that they made, $5 million on this, because I would just be ecstatically happy for them. But then it tells you how it back solved, what the equity investment was, and then literally even does a risk scenario that says, hey, if you don't get the exit cap rate we want and we get a different price per unit, here's what it's going to look like. Now, this is typically probably a little better than a first shot of what an analyst would give me, but that analyst is again going to take 6 hours of labor. They're going to take multiple days to get the information. They're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% mistakes. Here I can start with that. And at this point, as an owner of an investment company, what I'd say is, yeah, that's worthwhile. Go talk to the listing broker and see if we put a bid in at 9.25, if we're even in the ballpark, and if they would even consider doing the deal. And while they're thinking about that, go out and get some bids on renovation, just ballpark it and see if we're close, and maybe check the debt. So I'm definitely going to validate everything, but I'm going to do this within minutes. And so it's just a world apart from yesteryear of how we would do this with humans only. Before I jump to the pro forma, because I want to show you how we actually just build out a live pro forma if we didn't have an existing model. Matt, anything you want to add on the outputs there at all?
No, this is great. Again, leveraging AI as a thought partner, as really a strategic, uh, you know, uh, creative partner. You really are doing that here, and I love that it gives you some other scenarios too. Like, hey, look, if it doesn't land where we want, here's kind of what the options look like alternatively. So, yeah, this is wow, amazing. Let's
Thank
keep going.
you. Okay, so let's say that we're doing syndications and we don't already have a, a fund model or something that we use, or we don't use expensive tool like Argus. We literally want to build a model for this property. Now, for most people, you don't have to build from scratch, and you can just upload your model and then modify it. And this tool that I'm going to show, tryshortcut.ai, does that. You can upload your model and then you can modify it using an interface just like Gemini or ChatGPT. But to build a robust prompt, let's just say you didn't have a model or you wanted one very specific for this particular deal, I would ask Gemini or another LLM, hey, build me a prompt so that this tool, tryshortcut.ai, can build out a robust financial model for me. And in order to get the prompt, go ahead and ask me clarifying questions so you know what I'm trying to achieve and you can build me a really good prompt. So I run that through Gemini. It does that, and then what it does is it gives me this prompt that says, okay, for tryshortcut.ai, here's the prompt you want to put into tryshortcut. So it asks me the 4 or 5 questions. Then it says, great, here's your prompt. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this prompt from Gemini and I'm going to go copy and paste it directly into tryshortcut.ai, because now it says, okay, I'm going to build a dashboard on tab 1. Hey, tryshortcut, I want you to build a rent roll on tab 2. On tab 3, I want a monthly cash flow. On tab 4, with all these details. On tab 4, I want a waterfall with returns. And so tryshortcut.ai knows what it's going to build. And so I literally go over to tryshortcut.ai, and on the right, you see that it's got a little prompt window just like ChatGPT or Gemini. And I'm simply copy and pasting that last prompt into here. And I'm saying, okay, build me this model. And you literally see it just looks like Excel, right? Like if you didn't know any better, you'd say like Excel and, ChatGPT had a baby and this is the result. I won't go into the process of making the baby, but this is the actual result of the technologies merging together. And
That's a
so what
different
happens,
webinar, guys.
what happens is very quickly on the right, it starts showing you all the logic it's doing, what the thinking it's doing, what it's analyzing, and it builds the tabs just like it was told to. It builds an inputs tab on the left. It's got a second tab that's the rent roll, a third tab at the bottom that's cash flow, and a fourth tab that's the waterfall. And then it even tells me as a summary, the little chat bot inside tryshortcut.ai gives me the results. So it did all the math in this Excel that's part of tryshortcut.ai. And it says, here's the unlevered return. Here's the multiple for the GP, the LP. And then I would go back. And at this point, I would say, okay, I would go in the prompt window where it says, what can I do to help you? And I would test it just like I would test this if an analyst built it. I would say, hey, are there any hard-coded numbers we need to make sure that it's using variables or inputs? Hey, is there any circular logic in the formulas. Let's correct that. Hey, try shortcuts.ai. Is there any different ways you're calculating IRR from one tab to the other? Let's make sure you've got the right date range and you're using XIRR instead of IRR in one place and XIRR in another. Hey, when you're calculating multiple on invested capital, make sure you're using the same formulas. And so I would test it by asking questions just like I would ask an analyst. But instead of asking an analyst and them going back and checking and verifying it, and then me going on a lunch break, and then them going to get a coffee, and then them going to the restroom, and me taking a phone call, and all that elapsed time, it just does this in seconds. And so I do kind of test it and look for errors, look for scenarios that need to be fixed, and then I just have it fix it. And so I flip to the different tabs. I make sure it didn't hallucinate or get an error. And I find that it's about as accurate as a college degree, 2-year experienced analyst, just right out of the gates. But instead of paying 80,000 or 100,000 a year, I'm paying $300 a month. So just night and day difference. And the output it gives us is, and this isn't at all the most robust financial model we built. I just did this quick for the webinar. But these tools, whether you use try shortcut.ai or one of the other similar tools, they literally can build the most complex private equity, real estate, syndications, funds, models that I've ever seen. And just as with much accuracy as you could get from an investment banking firm. And so they're really incredible. And I highly encourage people to spend the time like watching YouTube videos to see how others use the models, build the models, what words do they use in the prompt. But it's so good that I think once you play with it for a while, you become a functional expert without having to understand how it's coded or how it's technologically working. It's proven to be incredible for our firm. And it takes probably to build something like this with the air handling, the internal controls, the checks and balances. I would say you should plan on it taking 20 minutes to build the model with all the inputs you need. You can even upload, rent rolls, upload T12s, upload OMs, whatever. But this is just the straight shot with the prompt from Gemini.
Wow.
You got anything there?
This is awesome. And yeah, I mean, this isn't just you know, uh like this wasn't just slapped together, right? This is structured and formatted in a very sophisticated way. I mean, this is expert documentation here. This isn't Gemini and these tools just trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah. And to your point, I was coaching a president of a real estate company earlier this week, and they had said, "Hey, we've got this OM in this appraisal, and we think this property, this multifamily property, is going to be a good deal, and it's got a 19% expense ratio." And I said to him, I was like, "It's just impossible. That's not realistic." And they said, "Well, it looks like the appraiser and the listing broker agreed that this is the expense ratio." And I said, "Well, why don't we talk about how a buyer, whether it's you or someone else, would finance this?" And he says, "Well, it'd be a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae loan." And I said, "Okay, let's ask Gemini to take that OM, go to Freddie and Fannie and say, Freddie and Fannie, what expense ratio is normal and what's the lowest one you'd use?" And it came back and it said 40 to 44% is a typical expense ratio for this property type. And the lowest Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will use is a 30% expense ratio. And so he went back with that data, that's real time live data, updated his investment thesis and said, this property won't work, even though he actually was holding an appraisal that said a 19% expense ratio is okay. The reality is you can fact check things in seconds that used to either get missed or take weeks. So super cool way to make sure that you're buying time and not wasting energy and effort.
It's brilliant. So,
Would you
so
like?
now you're going to take this and we're going to get this into a pitch deck, right?
Yeah, I think the next step, in my experience, is once you've found the property, you think you can get it at the right price, you know what the business plan would be of renovations and value add, and you've proven it in a financial model is, well, then you got to raise the capital. And our experience, how do you raise the capital? you're sending out a pitch deck or at least a teaser. And usually we have a team that builds the pitch deck. So I thought we'd go ahead and just show how we build the pitch decks with AI next.
Let's do it.
All right. So we've called this the AI equity raise assistant. It doesn't replace, relationships that you might have or your capital markets person or your chief investment officer will have, but it's going to do a lot of the analyst work for you. So we called it an assistant. And really what it's going to do, it's going to take, just to give you the context of what's going to happen, maybe the old way is here on the bottom, where it would take, a couple weeks to have the model, the financial model, build the PowerPoint presentation, make sure that the research data of comps and all that is built out in the graphs and charts, and that's put into a deck, and then put it out there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to say, let's just do all that in a matter of minutes. Let's not take 2 weeks to do that. Let's just crank it out. So what we do is, what are the inputs? So let's just think through this. We already have an OM that was from the listing on CRE. We have the rent roll. We have that, whether it was from the listing or from the broker or the seller or the OM. We've got the T12, and then don't forget we have that robust due diligence report that came out from Gemini. It knows what renovation costs are, what comps are. It's got all that for us. So we're going to use that as the inputs, and we're going to put it into Gemini, and we're going to say to Gemini, hey, Gemini, we want to use another tool. The tool's called Skywork. And so there's a tool called skywork.ai. Think of it as your marketing analyst that's going to build presentations for you that are institutional grade, meaning literally like you'd find this from a large institution that does pitch decks. But in order to get Skywork AI to build me something that's really, really cool and really high quality, I've got to get a good prompt to put into Skywork. And so what I say to Gemini is, Gemini, you're going to give me a prompt that I'm going to put into Skywork to build a pitch deck for investors using an offering memorandum, the T12 rent roll, and a due diligence report. And I want you to ask me clarifying questions to build a really good prompt. And I'm going to put that prompt again into skywork.ai. Skywork.ai, I think we pay $20 a month. Once you see it, if you're not using it, it's probably the best $20 you could ever invest. And so what the output was from Gemini is they said, okay, I'm going to give you a super analyst prompt. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Skywork.ai have an objective of taking these inputs, this deep dive. It's going to analyze it, and then it's going to give us this output. And it literally gives you slide by slide what Skywork.ai should give us. We want an executive summary. We want a slide about the asset. We want the market. We want the problem. Now, all of that was Gemini saying what Skywork should do. So I didn't have to think of all that. Now, if I would have spent some time, because I've got a couple decades of experience, sure, I could think of that, but I don't need to do that. And I can just get Gemini to do it. And so it goes through what Gemini has said will be a robust institution quality pitch deck. And I'm going to take this prompt and I'm going to go over to skywork.ai, and I'm simply just going to put it in to its chat box right there in the middle. Their screen's a little busy, but all I'm going to do is literally I'm going to copy and paste it into this chat box, and that it is the output of the prompt Gemini gave me. Now I can upload things too. I can upload the OM, I could upload photos, I could upload other things, but just to show you how great it is, even if I don't do that, I'm going to just put that prompt from Gemini in here, and it's going to start building. And when it starts building, it's going to say, okay, it's going to show the logic, just like tryshortcut.ai did. And it's going to say, I'm thinking through this. I've looked at the OM. I've now looked at the color scheme that you want, because I said in the prompt, I like a dark color scheme. And it's going to build slide by slide, 15 slides that literally have the ROI in multiple on invested capital, the duration, the IRR. It's got the strategic location, the value add, and it goes down. And in Skywork, I can literally just have it regenerate a single slide. So let's just say the graph's a little off, or I don't like the way it did it or whatever. I can click, hey, change and regenerate slide two. Leave everything else the same. And so I do a little bit of iteration like I would normally tell an analyst. I would do that in Skywork and I'd get a pretty good output. And then literally I just click download as a PowerPoint and I'll get about 90 to 95% perfect PowerPoint that then our team will modify. That last 5 or 10% still needs a human in the loop. We'll still move some graphs around. Maybe we'll say, hey, that picture you got from the internet, we actually want to use a real picture. Or, hey, you're using a map that's only 3 mile radius. We want to use a 5 and 10 mile radius for the market. So we'll tweak it a little bit, but the time we're spending tweaking the PowerPoint pitch deck is minutes. It's not hours and it's certainly not days. And the quality we're getting, we've had people tell us, wow, the output that you sent us looks like it came from, Morgan or Merrill or Goldman or Blackstone. It's that level of quality that's being produced for $20 a month and a few minutes of modifying versus weeks of inputs, online research, comps, downloads, all that stuff. Now you can literally almost one shot it straight through Skywork using a Gemini prompt. And so that's what we're getting. And that's how we're creating the pitch deck. And then from there, we can even automate sending it out and feedback and other things. But this is like saving us so much time that it's incredible.
Wow, this is mind blowing. I mean, I like all of us have spent obscene amounts of time building slide decks and uh, I think we've all been up at 2 a.m., deciding which font we're going to use, the agony. But this is just amazing. And folks, for those of you who aren't using AI tools, who are maybe not as familiar or haven't, dug in as much, the content that these tools produce, like this slide deck, for example, it's not just putting together a slide deck based on what the bot thinks it should look like, right? It's actually putting the slide deck together based on design principles that have been over hundreds of years founded, right? It's all of the best practices, all of the greatest knowledge of our civilization really does live in these tools. And so when it designs a slide deck, it's doing it in a way that the professional designers at Blackstone and those places would do it. And so man, $20 a month, pretty sweet deal for that level of expertise.
Yeah. And what I found, I'll wrap it up with this comment, Matt, which is if you're not using these tools now, just start playing with them. I mean, it isn't like it only took us 20 minutes the first time we built the pitch deck. We had to learn like, what do we click on, or should we pick dark or light, or do we tell Skywork to go do the comps research, or do we tell Gemini to do the comps research? Like we just play around with it. But within a matter of hours, you're literally a functional expert. You don't have to learn the technology. You just play around with it. It's like getting an Apple product. You just figure it out. You don't need to read the manual. And so I encourage everyone, try these tools, try Appify, try Gemini, try shortcut.ai, try Skywork.ai. And, if you want to learn more, stay, here and active in the Facebook group. The commercial real estate investing group is going to get more and more active. Again, whether you're a listing broker and you want to use these tools to accelerate creating offering memorandums, or you're an investor that wants to raise capital faster and easier, all of these tools can be used interchangeably for those different use cases. So I'll leave it there. I'll stop the sharing, Matt, hand it back over to you.
Wonderful. Wow. This is outstanding stuff, Jim. And like we were talking about at the beginning, you and your team have a ton of experience in commercial real estate investing, and not just the deal acquisition and all of this that we're talking about today. I mean, you have managed properties, you've been involved at every level of the game here, and so folks, Jim is bringing some real world expertise that don't sleep on this, folks. And so we want to help you build out your own system, like this as well. And so, Jim, Jim kind of went, hyper speed through these tools today, and they don't take that long to use. So We don't need a ton of time, but we are going to be doing in 2 weeks an in-depth workshop. We're going to walk through and help you to build out your own system. And so if you're like, oh gosh, what was that Excel tool again? Or where do I go to click the thing? We got you. We're gonna walk you through it. Make sure you've got everything you need to be super successful and just rock this thing. In 2026, folks, Happy New Year, by the way. This is the year that you are going to own your market, your business in a way like you never have before, and you're gonna make all of your friends jealous. That's what we're going for here. That's what it's all about. But if you'd like to join us in 2 weeks on the 21st, it's gonna be the same bat time, same bat channel here. Actually, not the same channel. We're gonna have a Zoom link so you can all join us in Zoom for that. But if you'd like to join us, please comment here. Just put AI in the comments, and we'll DM you the registration link for that for January 21st. But other than that, folks, love having you here. Appreciate all that you bring to this group and the community, and of course, the world at large. You're amazing people doing big, big things. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep going. Keep serving. Keep growing. And Jim, Bozy, thank you so much for bringing all this awesome stuff today. And yeah, look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks from now. And until then, hope you all have a fabulous rest of your week, a beautiful weekend. Best wishes to you all. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Bye
Matt.
now.
Thank you.